Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Good News. We are sitting down with Erin over at Foster Parent Support, and she's here to talk about all the good that they're doing right now. So, Erin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is?
Okay, sure. I'm Erin Beasy. I'm one of the team leaders for foster parent support at the Department of Children's Services. So I've worked there 24 years and pretty much always in the capacity of working with our foster and adoptive families and how we can support them, of course, how we can recruit and retain our families so that we have, good placements for our children when they can't be with their families.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what you all are doing really with the foster parents, because the foster system is a very difficult thing. I mean, my wife's a foster care worker,
Right,
so
right.
I hear of a lot of the difficulties that they're facing. But the foster parents aren't really talked about as much. It's like we always need foster parents. Foster parents are awesome. They're great. But there's a lot of difficulty that goes along with being a foster parent.
Right.
You're there for these kids that are going through, the most traumatic experience of their life.
Right.
And you're there to love on them, to care for them. So what are some stuff that you do to help the foster parents, help make sure that they know that they're loved, that they're cared for, and that you're there for them?
Right. Well, we try to maintain regular contact with them. I think one of the biggest things we need to do for our families is make sure that they feel a part of that child's team. We're all working together to get these children back home with their families. That's our primary goal. So it's really hard to say, hey, love on this child, treat them like your own, and then send them, home. But it can be the most rewarding thing. The most positive cases I see are the ones where the foster parents really rally around the family, not just the children, and become, mentors or stay involved, and we see them stay involved on the back end. But to answer your question, we provide trainings. There is financial support that we can provide to our families. We try to assist them with the things they need just for everyday care. Do they need daycare? Do they need, maybe help getting a child here on occasion? Anything we can do to make the job easy, because it's a wonderful job. It's a rewarding job, but it's a very difficult job. And we know that. And what we hear from our families is really just, communicate with us, let us know what's going on. And I know you've talked to Isaiah House staff recently, and they've been fabulous. I would totally, just want to give them props, because they're coming in and loving on our families.
Yeah.
And they can do a lot of the things that we as a government agency can't necessarily do.
Yeah.
But so we've been able to reach out to them and say, hey, our family needs this to make this placement happen. We want to keep these siblings together, but they would really need another bed, that type of thing. So they're able to jump in and say, well, hey, let us do that. Let us do that for these families.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that too, where it's not just one group of people that are helping. It takes everyone, the foster care workers, foster parent support, the Isaiah House now stepping in and really just doing everything you can to make sure that the foster kids are taken care of, that the families are taken care of, the foster parents are taken care of, and that everyone is doing their best to help the biological parents. Because that's the hope. The hope is that the kids will be able to go back with their parents.
Right. We really want to restore families, when we can and when it can be safe. And we do work to keep kids with family if they can't be with mom and dad. Do they have a preacher or a teacher or an aunt or an uncle that we can come behind and make them the placement for those children to reduce trauma as well. Yeah. So
that's awesome. So for our listeners here, that maybe they know the foster system, they know it's like, okay, they need stuff, they need foster parents to help.
Sure.
And maybe they're on the edge. Maybe they're like, what if we fostered? Do we want to? I don't know.
Right.
What would you want to tell them right now?
Well, one thing I do know, fostering is a hard job, like we've said, and it's not for everyone. So one thing we're kind of starting out with some people that are kind of on the edge is, what ways can I get involved to kind of get my feet wet? Yeah. We have a lot of churches that are identifying that we already have existing foster parents within our, house of worship. And, some of them are getting ministries together just to rally around that family or families in their church, and try to kind of come into it from that angle and help them as much as possible. But we are also doing regular informational virtual meetings right now.
Okay.
So that if they just have some more questions that they, really just want to see what is this really like, or what does it, look like for my family, that we do them with the department. We do them several of the provider agencies, because we have many provider agencies that have families too. They do them. And then we're working a lot with Tennessee Kids Belong right now. And from this perspective, they're doing like monthly meetings just to provide like what's next.
Yeah.
And so we'll get on a little panel and just let people participate and watch. And there's foster families that are on those panels, youth that are on those panels, and we're trying to get some of those front end questions answered. So to hope that people will want to take those next steps, and then we can line them up with what that process looks like from that point on.
Yeah.
But we have through the governor has an initiative now, Tennessee Fosters Hope.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to go to that page, or even just the tn.gov page, and if you're looking at become a foster parent, there's some basic information there.
Yeah.
And there's an online inquiry they can fill out, which comes directly to us, so that we can reach out and we just start answering those questions.
Yeah.
There's no commitment to it at that point. It's strictly just, hey, we want to know about this, and this is what our family looks like, and what does it mean for us to look at being a foster parent then.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. You said it was Tennessee
Fosters Hope is the new initiative. The governor just announced it, I think, on his State of the Union address recently.
Okay.
And they've got a really nice webpage set up with some really direct links.
Yeah.
It's specific to getting community businesses and church, houses of worship involved. They can fill out an inquiry there, and it'll kind of like help them, be fitted in where they can in their community. Because these kids are our kids, they're
for sure.
The children in Northeast Tennessee. I wrote down a number today, it was 657 children in our 8 counties. We're considered the Northeast region. Yeah. So there's over 8,000 children in foster care in the state of Tennessee. Wow. So we definitely want to be able to have wonderful, supportive families for these kids. We want to be able to place them in their own community, so they don't have to change schools, so they don't have to, they're already losing that day-to-day contact with their parents. What can we do to keep as much normalcy for that child is really important for us, and to keep siblings together. We definitely, that's a huge passion, and it should be for our department. We want the children to be able to remain together in any way that we can, if it's safe to do so.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Now you touched a little bit about the community support. What does that look like? When you say, getting churches, getting businesses involved, maybe a church leader or a business leader is listening right now or watching this, and they're like, I would like to know a little bit more about what that means.
Right.
Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there are so many ways to get involved. From the community standpoint, we have community advisory boards, and we have staff that's specifically outlined to work with our community, so that they can, help them find ways to get involved. They have regular meetings to find ways to be involved, and then, what the needs are. Sometimes they can fill a need that we have for birth families, foster families, whatever that may be. And we have a lot of families that are working with businesses now, like especially for the foster families, like we're trying to get foster friendly businesses and foster friendly churches. So some of our businesses are saying, hey, we want to provide a discount, come in and show us, that you're doing this. Our way of supporting you is to say, hey, here's 10% off of your meal tonight. Or, I know the Isaiah House is doing a special night at one of the local jumping places for the foster families, things like that. We've had churches to say, hey, can we provide like a parents' night out? And we work, through all of that to make it safe and appropriate, and meals for families. I mean, there's just no end of ways that people can get involved. And specific to Tennessee Kids Belong, for the worship houses, then they already have faith toolkits that they've developed that they will work to provide. They have what they call RAP training that helps the churches know, like, this is the good way to start like a mission in your church for for foster parenting, for foster care, and this is already set up. These are really good steps, and this is how we can support you in doing that. And
Okay.
so they have materials, they have sermon outlines, bulletin inserts.
Oh, wow.
and
And that's where can you find that stuff?
Tennessee Kids Belong has their own website, and
Okay.
they're one of our more recent partners, and they've
Okay.
just been a blessing to us.
Yeah.
And we're doing some virtual panels with them too. We
Okay.
did one recently with some of our local church leaders.
Yeah.
We're real excited about that, and we're going to have some more coming up.
Okay.
But some of our local pastors got on, and they got to tell them about all the things we can do to help them.
Yeah.
It's easy to come say, hey, this is how you can help us. But we want to come back and say, but this is how we can help you
Yeah.
to do that too. And so
Okay.
we're able to provide some of that for them.
That's awesome. Can you send me the links to the Tennessee Kids Belong
Yes.
and everything? So, because we'll link to it all in the description of this video.
Wonderful. Yes.
So if you're listening right now, not watching the video, if you go to our website, just wcqr.org, this will be the most recent video posted there. So you can click on the links and everything to get more information. And
Absolutely.
if you're a church leader, you can get all the printouts and everything there, because that's awesome. I love that. And so it sounds to me like it's a lot of just very practical ways
Yes.
to, if you're a business, if you're a restaurant, or
Right.
if you're a clothing store or anything
Right.
like that, just
Right.
being like, hey, we know fostering is difficult. Here's a little bit of help.
Right.
Here's a discount, or here's maybe, because I know when you get a kid in foster care, a lot of times they don't have anything.
Right. They may not.
So stuff like, if they're a baby, car seats,
Right.
and diapers.
Yeah.
'Cause, I have a
Cribs, I mean-
9-month-old.
Oh, gosh,
So
you
go
know
through a
that.
box of diapers a day.
Right. Absolutely.
That's expensive. And stuff like that. That's very just practical.
Right.
That they can partner with us and
Right.
partner with you.
Right. And another thing we've been doing that we kind of developed this year to try and do is we identified some specific churches, and we're always willing to accept more into the fold. But, and we're taking some of our children that are already in what we call full guardianship,
Yeah.
which in layman's terms means they're already available for adoption,
Okay.
but they don't have an identified family. So those are the kids you would see on like the Heart Gallery, Tennessee Heart Gallery, or Adopt Us Kids. Those, or we have a Northeast Tennessee Department of Children's Services
Yeah.
Facebook page, and we'll sometimes post their videos and links too. But we've asked churches like, here's this child, this specific child. Here's a picture of them, their video, the basic information that we can share. We want you to adopt or sponsor this child for this year.
Okay.
And whether that be, I'm going to commit to praying for this child regularly, and whatever that develops into. But we really wanted them to personalize it to this child needs a family, so let's rally around them and just be that sponsor church for those youth. So there's simple ways to get involved that really don't take a whole lot of work, effort, certainly, but definitely ways you can get your feet in the door.
Yeah. Even if you can't, foster a
Right.
kid, maybe that's just not a possibility right now.
Right.
Life is hard right now, and not everyone can.
Right.
Not everyone has that ability.
Right.
But if they can help out in any way,
Right. It's not everyone's calling
yeah.
to be a foster parent, and we understand that, and we understand that it's hard.
Yeah.
So, help a foster family, help a child, and there's other ways that they can step in, and we'll be glad to work with anybody in those capacities as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I'd love to hear, if you don't have to put any names or anything specific, but
Sure.
I'd love to hear of maybe a couple of stories of. I love hearing the stories. That's where I think you can really see people's hearts behind this.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to name names, you don't have to do anything like that. But I'd love to hear maybe a few recent ones, or just one that stands out to you the most. Involving a foster parents, foster family, or where just someone showed up in big ways to someone's life.
Right. To be specific, it's difficult because it's every day.
Yeah.
But when we see these, children and they come in so vulnerable, to me, the best stories are, we're able to say, hey, the minister from your church is willing to bring you to their home, or your teacher. We see so many teachers that are able to step up. And then you see them, like I mentioned earlier, like really rallying around those parents. So they're working together now as a new family unit. And the best stories that I've seen are the kids that are able to go back to mom and dad, and now, they have this new support system. But I love adoption stories too. 80% of our adoptions are foster parent adoptions. But I'm particularly fond of the ones that are able to keep the extended family or even the parents involved from that perspective, so that it's a happy ending as much as it can be, in those situations. But every day is a new story. We love what we do. If you work for DCS, it's usually a passion. It's not just a job.
Yes.
You know that. So, and seeing the Isaiah House come in now, the things they're able to do so these kids aren't waiting in an office. When Rhonda started that, she was one of our foster parents, and she just said, this is what I see. And I remember when she first spoke of it, and to see what it's grown to now. But seeing those kids getting to go and be loved on while they're waiting is a beautiful story as well.
Yeah, that is awesome. I actually interviewed Corey last week
Great.
for our Good News, and he said, so they're up to, this summer, I think they're going to be up to 11 counties or 11 different Isaiah houses, which is amazing.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yeah, because you hear the stories of how it is the most traumatic day of a child's life to be removed from the only home that you've known.
Right.
And then when they leave the Isaiah house saying that this was a great day,
right,
is crazy to think of that.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of an organization that has said, hey, I see a need.
Right.
I want to step up.
Right.
So other organizations can do that.
Absolutely.
There's still so many needs.
Right.
And maybe you're an organization that can fill that need by just doing what you do.
Right. Exactly.
Now I'd like to give you a chance to also just to share your heart.
Okay.
I like doing this towards the end of just to give you that opportunity to share what God has put on your heart in this season and this just whatever you would like to share.
Okay. I mean, for me, like I said, it's not a job for me. It is a passion, and I love helping people. I love helping birth families. I love helping foster families, and I certainly love children and helping them. So for me to get to do this every day is just a blessing, and to get to partner with agencies like that we're partnering with Tennessee Kids Belong in your radio station, and just anybody in the community. I would love, to see this community just rise up.
Yeah.
And it's obviously the Bible tells us, that we are to take care of our widows and orphans, and we, that gets tied into a lot. So we know that this is God's heart too. Yeah. So, any way people want to get involved, our doors are open.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And just everything you're doing for the kids and for the foster parents. Okay. So I just really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.